All right, Shalom. First off, I'm going to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakudash. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father's true name, Yahweh Shai being the name of His only begotten Son. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles, the great millstone, who rule well and teach well. And peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walk Him throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. This is the brother Masha Mayum, one of the men here with the GMS branch out here in the Morning Camp, here with another lesson through the Spirit. And this lesson is going to be basically, we have nothing else to trust in but these words, okay? Or really, should I say, Salakia, we have nothing else to trust in but Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, okay? And this truth, all right? Which consists of what? These scriptures that we read, you know? Because it was really inspired off of, the read in our first Maccabees, the second chapter, which is what I'm gonna start off with. First Maccabees chapter 2. Actually, instead, before we get that, I'm gonna start off with Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. All right, because as it says, this is Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Okay, so we read about these things in the scriptures, the stories of our forefathers and things that they went through, okay, and the faith that they have shown, all right, how they persevered, okay, and we see what they put their trust in, okay, was Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, all right, and they had faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, standing on the scriptures and the things that were written, okay, and this is why we have these scriptures today, because this is really the only this truth, okay, through the Spirit of power, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, all right. Faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is the only thing that we have to trust in, okay? Because it's gonna get bad out here, okay? And these people are gonna have nothing else to trust in, all right? But really, ultimately, the temporary stay or trust they have, okay? In their guns or their weapons or their food, that they have stocked up or whatever it is that they put their trust in, that's only temporary, okay? The Lord's gonna show them real soon that He's the true and living power, okay? And that He's been with His elect, But Salakia for, rambling, just wanted to make that point, okay? But so without further ado, let's start off with let's get that first Maccabees now. Chapter 2 and verse 51. This is first Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 51, and it reads, we'll start at 49. This is first Maccabees 2 and 49, and it reads, now when the time drew near that Matthias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength in the time of destruction, and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Right? Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Okay? And that's the point right there, okay? Verse 51. All right, it said, call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. All right? And we read about these things in the scriptures, the things the prophets of old, the ancient prophets had to go through, okay? Or really our forefathers, right? That they had to go through, the trying tests and trials, right? Because the scriptures warn us too that ye shall have tribulation and ye shall be tried. Okay, the scriptures also speak about Jacob's trouble, all right, at time like none other, right? But he shall be saved out of it. That he is who? That he is the elect, the ones that trust in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, so that's the importance of what? Continuing to be in this book, being these scriptures, and actually reading these things and taking out of it, all right, to keep these things in our mind, to keep our faith strong in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, seeing the deliverance that He's wrought, for our forefathers, okay, and the faith that they have shown, right? And really, I'll say the righteous, okay, Um, from here, let's get. Actually, we'll keep reading on. I'm gonna come back to this, but let's get the book of Sirach 2 and 10 real quick. All right, because as we see the faith that they have shown, you know, the Lord delivered them out of every situation, and trial that they were going through. This is Sirach chapter 2 and verse 10, and it reads, "Look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken, or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?" Okay, so when we read these scriptures and we see the faith that they have shown and how the Lord was with them, clearly showing you, hey, that's the way to go, and that's the only thing to do. All right, and we are to apply the same thing. That's why we read these scriptures, not just to read them and get by, but we read them to what? To continue to strengthen our faith. All right. Keeping in our minds the different things and acts that happen, studying these things, taking mental notes on things to apply and ways to move, seeing the characteristics that they have shown, right? These are all things to, apply and to put on. All right. Because real quick, like it says in Ephesians, let's get that real quick. I think it's Ephesians chapter 4. If it's not 4, it's probably 6. Con. This is Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10, and it reads, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." Okay? So it said, put on the whole armor of the Most High. What's the armor of the Most High? Okay? The armor of the Most High that we have is these scriptures, right? Key thing, armor of the Most High. It's not talking about physical armor, right? But Paul was using it as an analogy, okay? To those sports, in that time. All right. You know, and the armor that we have, once again, like I mentioned, is what these words that we read. We are to continue to keep these scriptures in our mind, to walk in them, to live in them, right? Verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places," right? So this verse 12 right here clearly shows you it's talking about what? A spiritual armor, because we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, you know, but what? Against spiritual wickedness in high places, all right? Against the rulers of the darkness of this world, So these wicked, these wicked elites, okay, they clearly know, all right, who the Israelites are, okay, and they see the men of the Lord, they see the brothers out there on the highways and byways, okay? They see all these other camps too, but they really see what? The true men of the Lord, okay, out there on the highways and byways, okay? Condemning them, pointing them out, okay? And what? You know, they're doing what they can, to try and, hinder this process, this truth, okay? But they can't, all right? Trying to clip brothers' videos, okay? Even, go as far as to have, you know, I believe as a man, people, Vocab Malone, okay, is an agent, okay, but sending people like that to come up, to try and cause brothers to get carnal, right? You know, or even I believe just throwing trying to curse the truth, but they can't, okay, because the scripture say you can't do nothing against the truth, but only for the truth, okay, you know. So, but verse 13, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand against the evil day, and having done all to stand," right? Okay. So take on the whole armor, all right? So we got to read about these scriptures, apply every good, faithful, and good quality or characteristic that, you know, we see that the forefathers have shown, you know, and apply it in our walk, you know, to the best of our ability, okay? And really just, you know, building up our faith, you know, for that time to come, right? You know, from here, let's go back to Sirach 2 and 10. Right, so we read this. Back to First Maccabees, chapter 2, and verse 51 again. And it reads, "Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness?" Okay. You know, so Abraham was found faithful in temptation. All right. And, you know, definitely we are going to be tempted being in this walk. All right. Being in this truth. Okay. But what the key thing is, you know, remaining faithful, you know, and really, you know, like brothers say, you know, it really hasn't even got hard yet. We haven't even got to the hard part, right? You know, the real temptations are really going to come. Okay. Dealing with situations, you know, when they start really enforcing, you know, that the C hip, okay, and you got to make decisions and decide, right? Of course, you know, the elect, you know, and brothers, you know, brothers aren't gonna, you know, we know what that is, and then the scriptures tell us not to take it because there's gonna be a judgment that comes with that, all right, and we're putting on as the elect, so you know, y'all forbid, but having people around you, people beside you, trying to get in your ear, okay. But reading on verse 53, Joseph in the time of his distress kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. You know, so even when you look into that account, you know, Joseph, when he the Lord, it said the Lord was with him even when he was you know, put in prison. Okay, the Lord was with him even when he was in prison, and that's, you know, that's another thing that we can, you know, trust in, you know, that the Lord is going to be with us no matter wherever we're at. Okay, you're not going to be in a situation so, you know, so far out that it's, you know, the Lord's arm is going to be too short to reach out. It's like, man, I can't deliver him there because this is a little, they got him hemmed up. Nah, you know, the Lord, nothing is too hard for the Lord. Okay, it's really all to show his power. You know, it's for him to show his power and to flex his might, and it's also for his servants to show their faith. You know, so, but verse, yeah, we can keep reading on these. But basically it shows you the acts and, you know, the faith that they shown, you know. And it's a precept I grabbed concerning faith, because verse 52 says, "Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation?" Okay, and we know about Abraham, you know, the faith that he showed, right? So let's get John chapter 8. All right, because the elect are gonna, like Yahushua said, the elect are the ones that are gonna show that faith of Abraham, you know, in every situation, right? This is John chapter 8, and we'll start at 37. This is John 8 and 37. "I know that ye are Abraham's seed, but ye seek to kill me, because my word hath no place in you." Okay, and he was speaking to them wicked Pharisees, okay, which are Israelites, okay, showing you that even ones that know this truth, okay, you know, that doesn't mean they're truly walking in the faith of the elect, okay, the faith of Abraham, right? True faith in Yahweh Bashim Yashai, you know. Verse 38, I speak that which I have seen with my father, and ye do that which ye have seen with your father. They answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. Yahushua saith unto them, if ye were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham. Okay? And what was the works of Abraham? Basically what? Showing that faith. Okay? Showing that faith in the Lord and doing what the Lord commanded him in the different situations and what he was told to apply and do. He was told to sacrifice Isaac. He was told to get up and leave his hometown, right? He believed when the Lord told him that his seed would be as the stars of heaven, right? All these things were counted onto him for faith, you know. And in the times that we're in, the scriptures command us to have faith, okay? Because that's the only thing that's going to get you through, you know. Yahushua even said himself, "Blessed are they that have not seen me, okay, but yet believe." All right. So, but verse 40, but now ye seek to kill me, a man that had told you the truth, which I have heard of the Most High. This did not Abraham, right? Because ultimately they didn't believe that he was the Messiah and that he was the Lord, okay? And that's exactly who the elect are going to be trusting in, being Yahushua, okay, to come and deliver him, you know? So, from there, let's get the book of Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20. All right, because, you know, the only thing the elect are going to be trusting in is Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, okay? And leading up to that time, showing your faith in how you live, how you move, okay, and applying the things that are written, right? This is Isaiah 10 and 20, and it came to Salaki, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth, right? So the elect are going to stay upon the Lord in truth, okay? And that's talking about in this time, okay? And it says, because it said, it shall come to pass in that day, okay? What day is it talking about right now, okay? In the time of our awakening, you know? We're not going to trust in stocking up, okay? Trusting in any type of aid that Esau provides, you know? Right? Or guns or weapons, you know? No, the only thing the elect are going to trust in is Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, you know? And applying the things that he's doing, all right? And I mentioned applying because, like it says in Matthew, you know, let's get that too. This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse Matthew 7 and verse 24. Yeah. Matthew 7 and 24. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I would liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. Okay? So we want to be people we want to be the ones that actually apply these things. All right? You know? It says, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. All right? So applying these things, once again, is how you build up your faith and how you get rooted in Yahushua, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, you know? And that's what's going to protect and deliver the elect in the times to come. All right? Once again, these things that the Lord has written, okay, will before time, right? As that Romans 15 says, all things written before time were written for our learning. Okay, so applying this in the times that we're in, we read about the things, the acts of old, okay, the valiant faith, you know, that was shown, and we read about the works of the Lord, okay, the mighty works that, you know, that he did, okay. You know, and what we apply these things, you know, as it says here. So, but that's the point, you know, basically applying these things that the Lord has commanded us to apply, okay? Because ultimately, this is what's going to get us get the elect delivered in the times to come, you know. So with that, I'm gonna say, call Allah Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles, the great millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.